Could the Celtics be losing another assistant coach before the playoffs? We're going to talk about it right here, right now on the Celtics Chronicle. So if anyone remembers, 2 years ago in Missoula's first season, Damon Stoudamire left the Celtics just before or just as the playoffs started, as he took a head coaching job over in college. Now it looks like the history could repeat itself with Sam Cassell being rumored and being linked to Florida State University. He's obviously been holding out for an NBA job. He's one of the most respected assistant coaches in the NBA right now. But being a head coach in a college program isn't exactly the worst way to go if you're just trying to be a head coach of a program overall. I don't know whether to be concerned about this or not, especially after how much Stoudemire's absence hurt the Celtics during that postseason run when they lost to the Heat in the conference finals. My name's Adam Taylor. I'm joined by my boy Billy Calabrese, and we're going to break it down. Billy, how you feeling about these rumors?
Oh, it's so disappointing because we've already lost Charles Lee. We lost Damon Stoudamire before that. I do know that it's just one of the consequences of being a championship team that people just pick your assistants off. But it's especially disappointing for Sam Cassell because honestly, he should have had an NBA job by now. This is almost insulting that he would go to college and nothing against FSU. If it wasn't his alma mater, he wouldn't even look at this school. The thing is, he is a former player there, but they're not a basketball school. They're a football school, American football.
I understood what you mean by football, dude. And this is the concern, right? Like, I'm trying to find, I saw a quote about it earlier today from Sam, and I'm just trying to find it again. So, this is one of the quotes that's on Steve Bulpett's article from heavy.com. Once the athletic department reaches out to me, then FSU's interest is official, but they haven't reached out to me yet. The athletic director hasn't reached out to me yet either. If it's God's will, it will happen. God has a plan for me. Listen, man, I have a great life. I'm an associate head coach of the Boston Celtics. It's good living right here. When I do get an opportunity on this level, and that's the bit that stood out to me the most, right? On this level, I'll be ready. I can guarantee that I am ready. Simple. So, to me, he still wants an NBA coaching gig. And I think he's one of the reason he's one of the most respected assistant coaches right now is because of the amount of years he's put in there, and he's paid his dues more times than most dudes in the league before they get a head coaching job. Does one come up though? Is one going to be available that fits what he kind of needs? You don't. And the way I look at it is Charles Lee fell into a great situation with the Hornets. Young team, rebuilding. They've got an all-star on the roster already in LaMelo. Not every opportunity falls that way, right? And you don't want to be Sam Cassell taking a job with the Lakers or with the Clippers where there's high payrolls, high expectations off the jump. Maybe going to college for a year or two will give him an opportunity. But sometimes when you fall out of that NBA ecosystem, getting back into it is way harder than if you just stuck it out as an assistant for another year or two. But he's got to do what's right for him. I just think that the impact that could have on the Celtics would be absolutely enormous.
And for him, it's not going to get him where he wants to be if NBA is where he wants to be. This is the kind of job you take when you want to just be safe for 10, 15 years and just be the guy because they're not going to be like this powerhouse. They're never going to be Duke, North Carolina, but he can have a successful long career. Like he basically is their biggest alum. God, in at least the past 20, 30 years, he's definitely one of their biggest. I mean, they've had guys go to the pros, but this isn't a basketball powerhouse by any means. So, like I said, this would be something where he could literally get this job whenever it's open. It's there should be no rush for him to do this now, unless he really thinks that NBA just opportunities just passed him by, which after all this time, it sadly might have.
Yeah, there's an opportunity there that, especially when you're talking college basketball, you can make a ridiculously large amount of money. And if he can have a fair amount of success with FSU, then he could land a bigger college gig at like a more prestigious program where he can then set up shop for the next 10 to 15. Do 3 or 4 years in FSU, get them right. The good thing about college is obviously you're in charge of recruitment. You build a team that you want based on the players that will be willing to come and play for you. And I think that, Brad Stevens was excellent at doing that when he was at IU, and we'll get to Brad Stevens in a moment. But I think that Cassell could be tempted by the opportunity to build a team, be on the recruitment trail, build up some form of respect on that program and then jump to either a bigger collegiate team or get a chance with a rebuilding NBA team. But as you said, it does feel like eventually the opportunity, the NBA skewing younger in coaching is at the moment anyway. Will Hardy, Ime Udoka, JJ Redick, Joe Mazzulla. We can go down the list, right? Charles Lee. There's a lot of young coaches kind of breaking through right now and taking over from some of the older. We've already seen what you can do. We want to move into newer ideas. Sam Cassell's in this weird spot where he's not old yet, but he's not part of that new school coaching movement either. He's kind of right in the middle, and that could work for him, that could work against him. So I do think if moving to college gives him an opportunity to build a long-term career as a head coach, that's something he should at least sit down and like really have a conversation with himself and explore that.
It's extremely unfair, but he's kind of in that Darvin Ham class where Darvin Ham already got the head coaching opportunity and now he's already back to an assistant. The only problem is he never got the shot as a head coach and he just got passed over and passed over. That would be my only thing with him is if he knows that opportunity's out the window, then hey, take the college job. It's a rough road back to the NBA from college though.
Yeah, and I think that Darvin Ham had a really tough go of it. If you look at what he achieved with the Lakers, like he took him to the Western Conference Finals one year, if I remember correctly. Like he got them on a deep run. He just never had a good roster, and that same roster struggling under JJ Redick. They went and got Luca, and things will probably get better. But to be looking at Cassell like, oh well, Darvin Ham struggled, so Cassell would. Cassell's much more experienced in the NBA circles as an assistant coach. I think the transition for him would be a lot easier. But again, if it is an opportunity for him to go to college, then maybe that's what he does. Now, from a Celtics perspective, losing an assistant this close to the start of the postseason would be absolutely horrendous. We saw the impact that losing Stoudamire had during that postseason run 2 years ago. I don't really want them to have to go through that again. Cassell's a really important part of this group. I also think if you lose Cassell, the talent drain you've had over the last 2 years is potentially insurmountable for the next year or two while you try and rebuild that staff. Joe Mazzulla needs to lean on guys with that type of experience. I know he's in his third year coaching in the NBA, but he didn't have much NBA experience at high levels of like the coaching tree before being put into this position. I think that he's been very fortunate to be able to lean on some experienced voices, some experienced heads. Cassell's really respected in that locker room too. I'm just concerned, man. I feel like we've seen the hit of losing Charles Lee this year, just in the way the defense has played compared to how it played last year. Losing Cassell as well, who's been, in my opinion, a lot of the times he's spoke, it's been quite pivotal on the way the Celtics operate in the post and the way he's got Tatum accepting the post and Brown accepting the post. It's a concern for me.
And it's a completely different situation. When you are Charles Lee, you can leave at the end of the season, the postseason, and just start your NBA job. In college, that spring is your recruiting season. That's
Yeah.
where it's more important than ever. So he would not be with the team in April, May, June, etc.
No, it's really tough, right? And that's where my concern lies the most is just you're not losing him in a few months. You're pretty much losing him straight away. If he signs a deal to join FSU, then he goes, and you don't really have the opportunity to replace him. And there's not really anybody out there that's available that has the experience and the coaching know-how to kind of slot into that role and be a valuable commodity. It's a big risk, and I understand Charles Lee needing to take that if he feels like it's the right step in his career. But from a Celtics perspective, I really don't want him to take that job.
No, it would be, especially his role. I mean, he's so beloved by the players. I mean, I think a lot of Pritchard's development specifically, I mean, he became the new era Sam Cassell.
Yeah, kind of, and that's the tough part, right? And then if you want to compound issues, and I feel like this one's far more of just an unlikely rumor, but there have been murmurings of IU, Indiana University, having some interest, as they always do when there's a coaching availability or a potential coach, in hiring Brad Stevens. And again, Brad Stevens is more unlikely to leave the Celtics than Cassell, like drastically more. But if Stevens, like the way I'm looking at this and the way I've kind of like compartmentalized it is there's a new ownership group coming into the Celtics sooner or later. There's no guarantee they're going to want Stevens as their guy leading the team, even though they should. If Stevens is just like, yo, Like, I did what I intended to do when I came into the league. I've got a championship. I could have another championship this season. Obviously, you might have to leave before then. I want to go and get security and be at IU for the next 10 to 15 years, making bank while building teams and coaching again. Like, Brad Stevens is still spoke about as one of the best coaching minds in the world. I think he took that step into the front office to be closer to his family, knowing that eventually he'd be back on the sidelines. If IU offers him this now with a little bit of job like insecurity because of the sale of the franchise and stuff, maybe big maybe he can be talked into making that move.
We're pretty fortunate though. IU is not the kind of school that's going to put up the big money that it would take to lure Brad Stevens. So anytime that it's rumored that he'd go there, they're doing it off just his loyalty to that school. Now, the other reason I think it's very unrealistic, besides the financial one, which cannot be ignored, because like I said, the Brad Stevens, Duke would have offered him like 10 mil a year a few years ago to coach, and he took his name right out of that hat. And I don't think IU is putting up that kind of money. The other issue is his son is playing college basketball right now, and they would be playing against Indiana. Notre Dame and Indiana play regularly. I don't think he's going to coach against his son.
Maybe not. That's a fair point, but at the same time, like, could he say, "Yo, I'll join in a year or two"? Like, I do think the rumors. Eventually, I'll always look at it like where there's smoke, there's fire, and this is a recurring rumor again, as you said, because of his loyalty to the school. I just think that if the new ownership group, whenever they do come in, decide that they want to go a different route, which would be absolutely ridiculous because Stevens doesn't miss. But if they did decide they want to go a different route, then I could see Stevens moving into a collegiate head coaching role again. He's done everything he needs to do at the NBA level, except for coach a championship.
And fortunately, the IU job will probably still be open in 2 to 3 years, because whoever they hire, if it's not Brad Stevens this time, is not going to last, just because of how, incompetently that program is run. So Scott Drew, whoever they kind of get in there, is going to have the same fate as Mike Woodson. You're going to be a 2 to 3 year guy. You might get 1 or 2 pros, and then you're going to underachieve, and they're going to get you either to quit yourself or they're going to force you out.
Yeah, because they just want Brad Stevens. And that's the way it is, man. I think with that, I've said everything I need to say. There are some coaching concerns with Sam Cassell. I think that Brad Stevens is sticking around for now, but long term down the road, a lot depends on what the new ownership group do. But with that, man, I'm done. I ain't got nothing more to say.
No, stop taking our coaches.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that like button. And we will be back tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.